This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh,
Takes a hop
off the path. You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill. One hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome Korn Ferry Tour winner, PGA Tour player. I'm going to call him golf course architect as well, owner, kind of like everything golf, Renaissance man, Zac Blair, the Sub 70 podcast. Thanks, Pro, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get into all the architecture stuff. I'm an architect nut, and the course that you're doing in South Carolina and how, everything transpired to where you're at today. But injury, surgery, sort of rehab, it's been a while. Like, what happened? How bad did it get? Obviously bad enough for surgery. And, where are we at in this process, and when should we see you back in action on the PGA Tour here?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, I had a couple of tears in my right labrum. Kind of don't really know when it happened. It wasn't like it wasn't like something happened while I was doing anything that all of a sudden I was like, man, I think I just screwed something up. It was just more kind of, I remember I was down in Mississippi playing that event down there, and just kind of woke up one morning and thought that I must have like slept on my shoulder or, slept on my arm funny, and kind of remember warming up and playing that round and thinking like, man, this doesn't feel right. And really the only reason I went and got it checked out was one of my best friends just had like a tear in his labrum and just had surgery. And when I was kind of talking to my friends about it, he had kind of chimed in like, hey, that sounds a lot like what I was going through. You might want to go get it checked out. So I, kind of a mistake, played the next week in Las Vegas before talking to the doctor, going anywhere to get it checked out, and just, definitely wasn't right. Went in, found out that it had a couple of tears and, needed surgery. So kind of did that, and, kind of a long road to recover for sure, a handful of months without golfing or anything, no touching a club. And then, kind of got back into the swing of things, and then found out that I just had some like really bad tendonitis in my left rotator cuff. So that was kind of like, now I got to go fix that one, and I haven't been doing anything. And, so that one was its own little journey, and it was almost like you couldn't really do surgery on the left one, which almost sucked even worse, because it was just like, yeah, just go real rehab and stretch and do all this other stuff. It wasn't like go get it fixed up and you'll be kind of good to go again. But, yeah, been a couple of years, like you said, but definitely looking forward to kind of getting things back rolling this fall.
When the right shoulder went bad, was it like, could you tell something was just beyond the pain, was something not right? Like horsepower gone, couldn't get through the ball? I mean, did it feel like, man, something is just, what the hell is going on here sort of scenario?
It was more just like a nuisance, it was like you were always thinking about it. So when I found out in Jackson, for the next like couple of weeks, like every swing you take, you're kind of thinking like, when is it going to do really, really bad, or when is it going to get worse, or, what's wrong, everything like that. So it was just one of those things where you're kind of like, your best bet is go get surgery, get it repaired. And I'm to the point now where my right one, feels like great. You're not ever thinking about it, knock on wood, but, it's kind of back to normal, which is kind of the goal, right?
With the left one, is there going to be kind of a permanent thing, since they can't do surgery to fix that? Is that going to be sort of a change you're going to have to do in physio, or working out a little bit more with it, or just really stretching it and be attentive to it when you get back out on tour? Is there going to be a kind of, a maintenance change you're going to have to do to accommodate that?
Yeah, I think just kind of taking a little better care of my body. I'm, unfortunately, a little too lazy, and, I just like to golf a lot, and I think it was just a lot of overuse for the right one, and then not doing anything for like a couple of years with the left one, really just paying attention and focusing on my right one more than the left one kind of, I don't think helped factor into kind of where that one's at. But that one actually, my left one feels good now. Probably not 100%, but definitely getting there, and, to the point where I'm kind of finally ready, starting to play a little bit, and, gonna go see what we can do.
With that 2-year break, and I've talked to some guys I know on tour on this, and, I've played competitive golf with them at their home course, and, great round pro, and you say, there's golf and there's golf. This is what we did today is golf, but it's not tournament pressure, the rhythm of that, yada, yada, everything that goes with it. I've never experienced it 'cause I haven't played on tour, but this is what I hear. So is that a fair statement that there is a workup to getting ready for that? And then if there is, what do you have to do to prepare? Do you go play some Korn Ferry Tour events at first to get ready, or do you just go straight to the PGA Tour? I'm ready to go. And if, what kind of work do you have to do to get yourself in that mindset to play against the best in the world?
Yeah, there's definitely like go hang out with my friends and, rip around in a cart, or, even just like go play around walking, golf. And then there's tournament golf, and then there's kind of like PGA Tour level golf. I think the biggest difference is kind of like, for me at least, will be kind of like the conditioning aspect of it. Like, can you go play 3 or 4 or 5 weeks in a row? You got to kind of work into that, right? I don't know if I've played more than like 2 or 3 days in a row in like 2 years. So, that's kind of the biggest thing over the summer for me. Will be kind of getting back into that grind of playing multiple days in a row, being out at the golf course, all day, traveling, that whole sort of thing. So I'll definitely go do some of the Korn Ferry, they're called like rehab starts. I think you get 4 or 5 of those when you're coming off a major medical. So I'll go do a few of those, play the Utah event, and, maybe play like the Utah Open or something like that, and a couple of those late in the season Korn Ferry events, and then kind of roll that right into the fall, kind of started up at Safeway.
How excited are you? Do you miss it more than ever at this point of being, I know you grew up with a family of golf, been around forever, of the game around your life forever. And is there now, like, are you just like dying to get back out there to compete?
Yeah, it was really funny. Like, I literally played golf like every single day. Like probably, and that's like not an exaggeration, like play every single day for so many years. And then it was kind of wild because that during COVID, that was right around the time I want to say that I got injured, and kind of like right around the time, we were having, me and my wife were having our first baby. And then when I got hurt and stuff, it was kind of a really, cool timing, I guess, because it was like right when we had Charlie. So I got to spend a lot of time at home, through that whole kind of stage of the pandemic and everything like that. So I really got a cool opportunity to get away from the game for, basically 2 years, which was pretty wild. And there was a long stretch in there that it was actually kind of nice. Like, like I said, played golf so much every day for so long, and then to kind of like not do it at all for basically a year and a half was like a pretty eye-opening experience. And it was definitely fun to hang out and kind of be normal and, spend a lot of time with the family. But I would say over the last like 2 months, it's been, really like, wow, I'm really, really excited to play golf again, which, that's kind of what you need, right? You need to drive, and you need to be, you need to want to do it and want to be able to go out and try and get better and, practice and everything like that. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you back out there again as well. And, we have to get into the architecture portion of it. So, got to ask you the tree farm. the history, how do we get here? What vibe are we going to kind of go for with this club? You know, what's going to be the design philosophy? Like, what should we expect? If we're fortunate enough to get to play it once it's open, like, kind of give me, what are we going to walk into with this thing?
Yeah, kind of how we got there. I obviously tried to do it out in Utah for a handful of years, and just kind of wasn't working out. The more I learned about it, and the more kind of details, and the further along you get, you kind of, basically the rubber meets the road, and you got to figure out if it's going to work or not, like the numbers, and it just wasn't kind of where it needed to be for Utah. So that was, again, kind of really right in that like pandemic, window time frame, and kind of didn't have like a ton going on. The PGA Tour was, not happening at that time, and started looking at other places. And one of my good friends, Andy Johnson, had kind of been down in the Aiken area, and told me how cool the property was down there, and the land and the sandy soil. So I randomly just started looking kind of around the southeast United States, just knowing the seasonality aspect of it, and kind of the soils, and it was more just kind of like curiosity and playing around. And then I found a pretty cool piece of property and kind of had my eye on it for a little while. And during the pandemic, kind of like hopped on a plane with a handful of friends and went and looked at it, and was kind of like, wow, this is pretty cool. Maybe we should see if we can get our hands on it. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that with a group of friends. And then it kind of took off, and got pretty real pretty fast. So it was another thing kind of during this whole break that was a nice thing to keep basically keep me sane, keep me busy basically every day, kind of working on this throughout the surgery and kind of the rehab, and that whole time frame. Again, it allowed me to work on a cool project, and that's pretty awesome to see it, getting grassed right now, and hopefully be done over this summer and kind of opened up next year. So that's been really fun, and got a really good team of people helping me out, and it's been really neat to be a part of it. But the golf is is awesome. The property's really cool. So much unique stuff happening out there with all the individual golf holes, just feeling like they're going to be so cool and so good. So it's a destination golf club. Members from basically all over the country, and, a bunch of international members too. So, the vibe is really just, a relaxed place where people can come with their friends and have fun.
Sandy-based soil or sand, right? How important is that element to this? Because it seems like all of the great ones have that in common, right? There's a sand base to it. So is that absolutely kind of vital for the vision that you had for this, that we have to start at least with that, and then the right piece of topography, but we can make it work if we're dealing with a sand base?
Yeah, the sand, the sandy soils are just important, I think, from a budget standpoint, not having to bring in a bunch of material, for drainage. And, obviously if you can get a piece of property with good movement and good topography where you're, again, not having to move like crazy amounts of dirt, the numbers just work out better. So, it was like pretty key for us to find a piece of property like that. And, the first time I went there, I definitely thought the property was cool, and, it seemed like it kind of kept getting better each stage we got to. And now that there's like golf in the ground, I think it's better than, I or anybody else would have ever thought that it would be. And, that's kind of a testament to Kai Golby, the main shaper out there, and the guy kind of, leading the charge, kind of building it, and kind of a testament to Tom Doe, kind of doing the routing and getting it, pretty dialed, and just kind of the whole entire crew. We got a bunch of really talented shapers out there. Like I said, Kai and Matt Smallwood and Eamon Sullivan, and I know Ben Warren was out there for a while. He's back in Japan, but yeah, it's just really cool team that is kind of putting their heart into it and making it really special.
I love playing golf out in the Sandhill region of Nebraska, and I think the cool part of that is, the holes were just there, right? They don't take a whole lot of, you can just from, the holes just kind of naturally from talking to a member at Dismal River, so talk to the guys at Nicholas who designed the white course, and obviously Mr. Doak did the red one out there, of just letting the land sort of be, and then you just sort of shape as minimal as you can and let the land sort of dictate that. Was that concept available for you at the tree farm, in the sense that there were holes that were kind of God-made already? You just had to tweak it a little bit, or did you guys have to move some soil on a pretty regular basis to kind of get the shaping that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, it's funny, we were just talking about this the other day. Me and Kai, we were having dinner, but yeah, so the tree farm, like, to start out, like, blank slate, the golf was all there. Like, every single green sits at grade, basically. There weren't a lot of, like, crazy big earth moves, besides, like, the 17th hole. We kind of, like, excavated the whole, front part of that green out, or like in front of that green, and took it somewhere else to, build a pond or whatever, the dam in the pond. But other than that, like, the holes were just kind of sitting there. But to take it, like, to the next step, the guys like Kai and Matt and Eamon and the whole crew, they still spend a lot of time out there doing the little things and getting the little contours right, and everything that takes it from kind of like the start to the finished product still is, so much detail work that, it's not, I think there's this kind of misconception in the minimalist, like, architecture world that, yeah, that hole was just like sitting there, and it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, it was for the most part, but they still do a lot of work to make it look like nothing was done, right? That's kind of like the biggest compliment for those guys is, I heard Kai talking about it the other day, some of these architects are like, yeah, this hole was just sitting here. We did nothing. And some of the shapers are kind of like, man, I pushed dirt on that hole for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, like getting all the little things right. So it wasn't like it was really just sitting there, but the bones were kind of there.
Right,
so,
the template was there. If you knew what kind of hole you're going to make out of it, or you could see it.
Yeah,
and just fine-tune
exactly. So that's kind of, that was the cool thing to learn and the cool thing to see and the cool thing to be a part of during this whole process is the bones for 18 golf holes, like very minimalistic golf holes, were there at the tree farm. But also to see these guys, really, really like put all of their focus and attention on the little things to make it even better, has been awesome to see.
Is it tough to say, like, that's enough? Like, I always think it'd be hard if I was designing a hole, like, and you're shaping. Like, how do you, like, no. All right, I got to move this a little bit more here. It's got to be a tough thing when you're out there for, like, Kai to say, like, okay, that's it. We're not shaping anymore. I got it. Like, and we're moving on. I think it'd be a very hard thing to have to work on a thing for that long to be like, that hole is complete, right? And I guess there's always tweaking in golf courses over time, but I always think it'd be a very interesting thing of saying, like, when is it done and when are we moving on to the next hole?
Yeah. I mean, I also learned that kind of really early, Kai talking to some of the other people, some of the other shapers, really saying, like, that's the key, honestly, is like, when do you say that's it? because you can kind of just keep doing it forever, and it's not necessarily a case where it keeps getting better the more you do it, you know. So, the really good ones just kind of know when it's right. And, Kai's obviously really good, so I think he's making a lot of good calls.
I know you tried to route it yourself or thought about doing it at first and then bringing in Mr. Doak. Like, what made you decide, like, all right, I think I've got an idea, but let me call Mr. Doak, get his opinion, and then when you have that much experience and in the courses he's built speak for themselves, is brilliant. What was that like to work with him, of seeing what he saw that you may have missed just because he has so much experience doing it, to get the best routing out of that piece of property?
Yeah. So, like you said, I tried to do it myself for a while, and not necessarily myself. I had other people, helping, but it was something that I was really close to and thought I wanted to at least give it kind of a crack. But then kind of the more that some people got involved that I trusted a lot, and the more they kind of, were kind of shepherding me to get some help from some really experienced people, that's kind of what led to Kai. And then when I was working with Kai, he was kind of like, hey, do you think we should call Tom? Like, he's the best in the world at this. Like, there's nobody that likes this more. There's nobody that knows more, has seen more. Like, he's really, really, really good at and specifically, he's really great at this aspect of it. We should at least see if he would want or be willing to help out. So I had kind of set up, a call to talk to him about it and see if he'd be interested. And, fortunately he was, and he kind of, put the ball in my court, basically like, I can, point you in the right direction on your routing and try and, help you with that, or I can do a few holes and you can kind of link those together, or I could just like do a routing, like, which would you want to do? And I kind of passed it back to him, like, what would be the best for you? What would you want to do? And he was kind of like, well, I love routing golf courses. Like, I definitely see my career, if I have the ability to maybe do some consulting or stuff like this where I can just route golf courses and help out that way, that'd be really cool. So I'd love to, try it out. So that was kind of a no-brainer for me, right? Arguably, the best person in the world at that thing, and Tim saying that he would want to do it. I jumped all over that opportunity, and yeah, it was really cool. Again, like when you are close enough to be involved in those decisions or see how someone, again, that's like the best in the world is doing it and learning from it and seeing that, it was really cool for me, who was very interested in that part of the process, to kind of see the decisions and why those decisions were made. So that was very fun and very cool and a big learning experience, which was great. And, he did a better job than I did. Right. So it definitely wasn't like a detractor to start the process. Right. It was, something that I felt like I could always find cool holes. I'd never done a golf course or done a routing before, but I was somewhat familiar with the topo map, and, I was familiar enough with the property to know, what certain areas were. And like I said, I felt like I could always find cool holes, and I felt like my routing had a lot of really cool holes, and I think they would have been really, really good. But there were certainly areas in my routing that got to a point where it was like, okay, how do I get out of this area?
You can get
kind
stuck,
of
right? Like, okay, this is a great hole, but like, oh, okay, now what? And then do you make a mediocre hole to get you back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's kind of like, when I was doing mine, it wasn't necessarily like, okay, I have to like go do this mediocre hole and this bad hole or like whatever. It was just like, okay, I got to connect this to that to get over to this area again where I think I know that a good hole, could be built, where his just didn't have any of that, right? His was like, squeezing every last drop out of the towel of like good hole after good hole after good hole, and using all the really cool parts of the property and making it all work, without any wasted, wasted spots, in the 18 holes. So, that's kind of like the huge main big difference. And, I got to be a part of it, which was, pretty neat.
Well, two parts. I think it's sometimes underrated of how important routing is, right? It's not the sexy part of it. Everyone wants to see the holes, but man, to make them come together, it's like such an integral part of that golf course. And then my second, I guess I'm just giving an opinion. It's not really a question, but I'm guessing you would agree with that portion of it. And part two is how much different was Tom's routing than your routing when you guys were done, like what you had in your mind versus him coming in and doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean, the routing's, equally as important as, if the golf holes are one side of it and the routing is the other side of it, like neither of them can be as good as they can be without the other being good, right? So it's, and unlike the golf where, like you said earlier, where it's always getting tweaked and always, you can always make little changes or little edits. Not really with the routing, right? It's like if you go this way, especially on like a property that has like mature trees, like in a forest, if you go clear a bunch of holes, like you can't just be like, you know what, like in a couple of years, maybe we should not do that. It's kind of like you're kind of set. So right. It is really, really important to kind of get it right. And honestly, that's kind of really what led to, bringing Tom in and bringing Kai in was, like I said, those people, Will Smith and Colin Sheehan and David Margolis, some of these people like in my inner circle that were just like, this is a big deal. Let's make sure we get it right. Like, this is the best person in the world. Like, if he's willing to help out, let's go, like, get him to help out. So, yeah.
And was it some similarities of what you thought it would be, or were you surprised how much he changed the routing?
Yeah, so he didn't want to see mine to have he didn't want any preconceived ideas of, where I had green sites. Not that they were groundbreaking by any means. Because like I said, I had never done it before and didn't really understand fully the best way to do it. But we, looking back, there were definitely some areas that we had some similar stuff, like some similar green sites or some similar fairways and everything like that. And that was kind of my point, was I could find cool holes, that wasn't the problem, but how do you make 18 cool holes and not 14 cool holes with 4 connector holes or whatever. So, if you kind of overlay the two, there are some similarities and then there's some, big differences. And, he just used the land so well. And just, I took it on very head on, and all of my stuff was very bold and, straight up and over some hills, and my walk would have been 10 times more challenging than
12
than
miles
what
out
his
there
would have
dying.
been.
Yeah.
Not much longer, but just straight up and down, right? Where his is just kind of using the land so well, just like how you would kind of walk it if you were out there, just going for a walk. It's not a challenging walk at all. And he's going up and down and around and everything, but not like mine was straight up the hill and straight down the hill. his is just kind of like traversing up the ridges and kind of, falling down and like working around the bowls and everything like that. They were a lot different. His is a lot better, but it was fun, to at least, there were a couple areas in there that when we got out there for some site visits that we made a few tweaks and, I helped here and there. So it all worked out.
When you're building the course too, like how do you make it work or for you to find it challenging at your skill set, yet and without making the hole just 100 yards longer, right? Like, all right, put a tee box back. Besides doing that element and a member who's going to be a 12 handicap, like how, is that easier than people think, harder than people think to let you go out there, enjoy the course, it plays different all the time, and that higher handicap golfer being able to have that same challenge, but not just simply doing it by adding length?
Yeah. To lead off, like, one of the things, and me and Tom and everyone involved, talked about that a lot, was like, how do you, make this enjoyable for kind of like all different levels? And one of the things Tom said, kind of from the very beginning was like, hey, this is like a really good piece of property. And, there are some areas out here that are just very, dramatic or bold or whatever. And he was like, your clientele, will respect and understand if you do some bold things, and not having to necessarily try and cater to, like a higher handicap person. Like your higher handicaps that are members, like understand golf architecture and appreciate golf architecture. So just go make like the best hole that you can instead of worrying about, is the 12 or 15 handicap going to be able to play this? So there are certain areas out there that are just, pretty bold. There's some bunkers out there that are like pretty bold. But that was more just because that's what the property offered. And he kind of said early on, when I asked him, like, what does the property remind you of? And, he was like, there are some areas out here that are like, Pine Valley, right? It's like, that's a hard golf course, and, they just accepted that at Pine Valley and, and built a hard golf course, and because they knew that the people that were going to be playing out there, like, understood that and appreciated it. So, that was definitely like a shifting kind of moment early on, where early it was like, how do we make this like very, very playable for like high handicaps, but still challenge like good golfers, and kind of shifting that to like, let's just make the best golf course we can and not really worry about anything else. So, it is playable, very playable off the tee, big fairways. But again, like I said, there's some areas out there that, like some bunkers and, around some greens or whatever that are kind of like, not that easy. So it'll be fun.
But I agree with you. I think the clientele you're going to get joining that club, they're going to be there for those dramatic golf holes, and if they are a little bit higher handicap, I think they're going to get it, right? You're not going to get, the once a month golfer who's not fully into it, right? And if they get their teeth kicked in on a hard day a little bit, I think they're probably going to be okay with it, right? It makes sense where you're going at with it. You brought up the Buck Club earlier, out in, the project out in Utah. Do you think if this proves itself, which I'm sure it will, and if it gets the accolades and the membership, does this still kind of lead to potentially doing something in Utah? Because Utah is growing, and unless I'm wrong, there's not really like a top 30, 40, 50 golf. Is there a top 50 golf course that you would say in Utah, which is like the topography is so beautiful out there? I'm surprised there's not. But is it time to kind of bring a really in time, the next 5-10 years? Do you think the market then will be viable to build something like how you probably envisioned out, where you're from?
Yeah, I definitely think you can do it. The problem, like in Utah especially, is just like the property, like fairly big state, but like concentrated to, like let's just say within an hour and a half of Salt Lake City, right?
Yep.
There's like, once you get outside of that hour and a half, there's a ton of land, a ton of, really cool places to build golf courses, but, like, unfortunately, there's no people. So it's like, yeah, I think you could go build like a really cool destination golf club somewhere. And there's definitely room for it. And I definitely think it could happen. But I'm not sure how, I'm not sure exactly how it would work out. That was like one of the things for me, learning about just like the seasonality of Utah, right? It's like spring, summer, fall, for North America, where it's harder, I think, to get people as a destination golf club to come somewhere for that season in Utah, because it's nice where they're from, right? It's like people from the Northeast or people from, Florida or people from California or wherever, right? They're kind of like enjoying where they're at in the spring, summer, and fall. Their golf course, their home course is like ready to go. All the events are happening right then at their home course. Where then you just all of a sudden close down like in November and you don't open back up until April in Utah.
Yeah.
That was kind of something that drove me to the Southeast, was pulling people out of the snow to come to warm weather and good golf.
Right.
Seemed easier than like pulling people out of, warm, good weather to come to, different warm, good weather. That's really kind of what led, to the shift with TBC of like, if we can do this, which I certainly think we can, like maybe it's more of the Sweetens Cove, like public model. And that's just much more like dominates Utah golf, is that public scene. So I think it could be a really cool opportunity, to do something on the public side, in Utah. And again, because like so many of the people that supported that vision and that brand, would be able to just like play it anytime. And I felt like that was cool. So that's definitely where I'm leaning with that whole sort of thing. And definitely excited to kind of fulfill that and do that kind of as the next step. And I certainly think that when people see what the Tree Farm is and what we were able to do, and how some kid in his 30s was hopefully able to pull this off and do this and make a really cool place, it might give me a little better chance for people to kind of buy into that in Utah.
But I'll flip it around on you, right? Like I said, I spend as much time as I can out in the Sand Hill area, and I mean it's in the middle of nowhere, right? Like I'm nuts enough, I'll drive the 11 hours to go play golf for 2 days out there, and Dismal's full. I mean, obviously Sand Hills you can't get in. They're just building Cap Rock up there, which will be private exclusive. Dormy Club's building another. So you got these. If the golf is good enough, right? This is in the middle of nowhere. Talk about a short season. It's a short season, and there's going to be 5 or 6 private clubs out there. I think golfers are nuts enough where if the golf's that good, and I think the public model like you're talking about could be a great I love the idea of Sweetens Cove, but I still think if it's good enough, golfers are nuts enough, man. We'll drive even if the weather's good here. Like if it's great, people will appreciate it and go see it. But I think you could do it with the public segment of it as well out there. But I'm always amazed that, they're building another one out there. I'm like, this is literally in the middle of nowhere in the shortest season you can imagine. And they're all full. It's pretty crazy. So
yeah,
golfers are sick.
Nebraska's got like, I would say, obviously the soils are like perfect out there. It's ridiculously cheap. Like Utah's not necessarily like that in other areas, and it seems like it is in the middle of nowhere, but you also have seems like it's just a little bigger pull from kind of all around you to be able to get there a little easier.
Yeah,
exactly.
Denver, right? I mean, you get Omaha, Lincoln. You're right. They're Minneapolis, South Dakota. There is a
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely could do it. Like I said, kind of leading into that, I think it's definitely doable. I think there are places you can do it. I just don't know if I want to do it like that in Utah anymore. It's just TBC definitely kind of like it just changed, right? It was just like, it was just different. Would rather do something public. Would rather do that kind of avenue. But I certainly think, you could pull off a really cool private club. I just like, it's so wild in Utah though. It's just, there's nothing, you just can't get any, there's like no property around that's not in the mountains. And if you go in the mountains, it's just like ridiculously expensive. You go up in the Park City areas and everything. That's just like insane. It's just not, you have to have some, billionaire people doing this. And, I certainly, can appreciate why, you don't see many golf courses built the way the tree farm is built. Usually it's a billionaire, kind of pulling the strings and writing the checks. And I definitely have learned why. It's just kind of way easier, right? It's like something's a little over budget and it's just not as big of a deal when you can do it all yourself. So, but anyway, yeah, I think it can be done and hopefully someone will do it. And, maybe I'll be a little bit of a part of it, but, TBC definitely probably not going to be, that private model.
Hey, the public can work too, right? Like, how cool would that be? It's still, building something out there that you've dreamed about doing. And you just put, in life we call audibles all the time. Flipping around, totally. And if that's what it is, it's still, you're going to make a great golf course if you're associated with it. So I definitely think it's cool if you go the public route and let people play it and enjoy it. And if that's sort of what works out there, I mean, it has to make financial sense. So I get exactly where you're coming from. Your favorite golf courses and architects, if you're, from a player's perspective, what's some of your favorite courses you've gotten to play, and what architects do you just absolutely get, excited that you get to go play this architect's golf course?
For me, it's kind of easy. Like you get going. You're talking about your like Pine Valleys and your Cypress Points, and the old course. Those are just like fun places to play. I think Mackenzie, I think was really good. Like Cypress Point, it's a really cool routing. You're kind of going in and out of different kind of envelopes of the property with the dunes and the forest and the ocean and everything like that. And I think, recently I've been a big fan of Harry Cole. Was lucky enough to be able to go over with a group of friends to London and go play a bunch of those Heathland golf courses and see a bunch of really cool places. Yes, I would say like Pine Valley is my favorite place. It's got cool architecture and it's also like really challenging. You just feel very accomplished if you play well there. And as like a professional golfer and a good player, it's fun to be tested on that level. And then on the flip side of that, probably my second favorite place in the world, National Golf Links up in Long Island is just like so much fun, right? I feel like you could take a plus handicap, a scratch handicap, and like a 10 handicap out there, and you'd all go make a couple birdies and you'd all have fun, and everyone would be having a good time. So those are probably two of my favorite places. Big Seth Rayner, C.B. McDonald fan. So anything that those guys do, I usually kind of enjoy at least going to take a look and playing those places.
What's your favorite Seth Rayner?
I mean, I would probably maybe like Chicago Golf Club.
It's pretty good.
Really cool set of greens. Like maybe my favorite in the whole world. Just like 1 through 18, all the greens out there, just like really cool. I felt like he did a lot of his greens. like big green complexes for the most part, but just like so many pinnable places to change it up from day to day, and you can just completely change a golf hole out there based on where the pin's at. So that just kind of like maybe off the top of my head, but I feel like he was like pretty involved at National too. So those are a couple of my favorites.
Is there a few golf courses that are on the hit list you have not gotten to play yet that once fully healthy, next couple of years, you're like, I want to go play X?
Terra Edie is probably like, number one. I think a handful of years ago, it was kind of like right when it opened, but me and a handful of friends were down in Australia, and it was like kind of an option to be like, should we, we'd been down there for like a couple of weeks, and it was like, should we go over to New Zealand and play? And we were kind of like, nah, like it can't be that good, right? Like it can't be that good to like change everything up for a couple more days and spend all this money. And now looking back, it's kind of like, man, what a stupid call, especially with like, Tom and Kai being involved in this project. And it just looks like such a cool place. But honestly, maybe it was a good call because now, Tom's got, another course going in there, and Core Crenshaw have the second course that went in there. I think Tom's new one and Bill and Ben's new one is like the resort, like public too, and then Terra Edie's the private one. So, maybe go back there in a couple of years and play all of them, which, probably a pretty good call too.
I'm assuming you got to play all the stuff in Australia of Royal Melbourne and all the stuff on the sand coast there.
Yeah.
I would love to. How good is it?
Yeah, ridiculous. Like the golf down there is insane. So fun, just like proper golf, short grass all over the place, just firm and fast, and it's just really cool. Like, playing like Kingston Heath, which is really, not small, but, like compact and, really cool green complexes. Just like, just all of it is really great. And then comparing that to like going and playing like the championship routing at Royal Melbourne, it's just like the scale is just grand and big, and the differences of those two places, but both of them being just like world class. And then we had a pretty solid lineup down there. Like played Kingston Heath, Metropolitan, Victoria, popped down and played both the courses at Barnbougle, played both the courses at Royal Melbourne. We played a lot of cool stuff out there. I would like to get back. I know they're playing like the Australian Open and stuff down there in Melbourne again, so that'll be cool to get back there. I want to play, I don't know if it's called, it's the one that Ogilvy and that whole group did, God, what's the name of it?
I know what you're talking about. Those guys are doing some
Peninsula
nice work.
Kingwood.
Yeah.
It was basically like two clubs, and they sold one of the clubs. They like two clubs joined together, and they sold one of the properties, and the other property basically had 36. I don't know if they were good, bad, indifferent, whatever. But basically, they sold one of the courses and did a whole housing development or something like that, and used all that money to go like redo all 36 holes at the other facility, and they just look insane, so cool. Yeah. And they got another one down there somewhere, like, an hour outside of Melbourne that looks so cool too, called like Lonsdale Links or something. I don't know. But there's so much cool golf down there. I didn't get the chance to play St. Andrews Beach, which is another, dope course that looks really, really cool too. But yeah, the golf down there is awesome. Highly recommend if you get the chance to go down.
Oh yeah, I've never talked to anybody who's gone and done that trip who kind of comes back and goes, "It's okay, not worth." Everyone raves about it.
Exactly.
Two favorite, one or two best golf courses on the PGA Tour. Is there a couple that really stand out to you from being out there? Like, this is damn good. it's really, really, really solid.
Yeah, I mean, like Riviera is like ridiculous. That one, I'm trying to think what else. They don't play too many good ones out there. I used to really like Muirfield Village, Jack's place, from a like tournament golf standpoint. Yeah. It felt like there was some, from the professional side of the game, like a water hazard is like a deterrent, right? And it's like a lot of like the traditionalists don't like that, and whatever. But from like a professional like lens, there were definitely some holes out there that, if you took on the hazard and you played bold shots and you executed them, you got like a huge reward. Where if you play away from the hazards or play away from certain pins and hit mediocre or bad shots, you're like severely punished. So, from a professional lens, I always kind of enjoyed playing out there. I haven't played the tournament since they've redone like all the holes, but like the holes that were redone prior that were not like some of the original ones. He's always like tweaking that place.
Yeah, he's always doing something. It's like evolving constantly.
And it's like every one that like every time it changes, it seems like it got like a little bit worse. Like all the holes that were like really old and all the greens that were really old were so cool and just like big sweepy contours, like a lot of slopes. And then all the new ones were kind of that newer, like micro contour, a lot of pin locations, and it just seemed like they weren't nearly as cool as some of the other ones. And now it seems like the entire course is like that since this latest renovation or redo or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what that's like and how different it is. But I did always enjoy playing tournaments there. And then, what else? Colonial's pretty cool. I'm excited that I don't know if Gil's doing the redo there, if that's kind of on hold or what, but that place is always like pretty cool, like small ball, just got to execute and do a bunch of good things. But like I said, I don't know if there's necessarily too many good golf courses out there. That's kind of why I always try and sneak off on a Monday or Wednesday and go play somewhere good.
Did you play the tour event at the Core Crenshaw for the Byron Nelson? Oh, what the hell's the name of that golf course?
Yeah, Trinity Forest.
Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. Like that was,
a lot of guys complained about it. It was weird.
Yeah, they got a kind of raw end of the deal, I would say. It used to be at Four Seasons, TPC Four Seasons, which was, so corporate. And I actually, that was a course where a lot of people like said they didn't like as well. But I actually, thought there were some cool holes out there. And it was fun from a gallery standpoint. It was in a really good spot. They got massive crowds.
Yeah.
Just like people partying their tails off out there. It was pretty cool.
The hotel's right there. It's easy.
Yeah,
right? Go to the Four Seasons.
Exactly.
It's
just like the whole place was like evolved and built for like that tournament and the tournament golf. So when it moved to Trinity, which is like way outside the city, just not built for spectators, not a tree on the property, and it's hot and, everything like that. And then, the golf course is like built to be firm and fast and play like that. And the tour is not built to play like that, right? They like, it's an entertainment product. They like people playing good. They like the stars being happy. They like, they like to conform to a certain box, and Trinity is very much outside that box. So they did everything they could, to rein that place in, unfortunately. And it just couldn't shine really the way that it was meant to, which kind of sucks. So, they kind of quickly went away, which is too bad. And, cause I think I played at least twice there, maybe only once, but I think twice, and it was really cool. But didn't work out.
I was hoping you were going to say our fifth major here, the John Deere Classic. I thought you'd have TPC Deere Run at the number one spot.
I do like that event. I, had a lot of fun out there, and had some good times. And they always treat the players really good, and they always have the course in really good shape. And if they can dodge some thunderstorms, the course is pretty cool and definitely has some fun stuff going on. But I actually played the Davenport Country Club's pretty
That's
sweet.
a good golf course. Oh, that's the best one around there by far. It's not even close. That's in our ballpark. And that place is beautiful.
Yeah, really cool. Snuck out there a couple of times.
Well, that or the heat. If you get out there too, if it doesn't rain, like a monsoon, it's about 103 degrees with about 90% humidity down by the river with that. Oh man, I've gone out there and watched it. It's our home tournament, so we still go out there and watch it. And man, you are just sweating bullets following the group you want to follow out there. It's brutal, but great people. And I always said for that event, it's cool because you can go out there on a Thursday afternoon and you can really watch a group of professionals up close of how do they take apart that golf course. And you can watch every shot. You're not fighting 9 million people. It's nice people. It's a good crowd. And you can get up close and really watch how you guys can kind of dissect a golf course, And then I know it's not the greatest golf course in the world, but it's a solid track. And to see you guys, the winner shoots 20 under par, like that's insane, right? If you watch somebody play that golf course from all the way back, greens are rolling, the rough's up compared to normal, and go shoot a 66 that day. It shows how good you guys truly are. Even over I'm always, when I go watch the event, I played that golf course enough, it's always like the difference between a touring pro and a good amateur is literally night and day difference. And watch one round up close and, you'll see it. We're not playing the same game.
It is very different. I it's crazy how good those guys are. I mean, it's just like
how good you guys are. You're out
there. They just know how to golf, right? They just they know. The difference is they just know how when nothing's going right, they can play good, right? They know how to score. They know how to, just manage the game for the most part, at least like the really good players. They can go shoot 68, 69 when they don't really have anything working. They can just kind of manage. And then when they do kind of get it clicking, they go shoot 62 and 63. So that's the big difference. Like a really good amateur needs their stuff to be clicking to shoot 69, 60, 69, 68, 70. And when it's not, they go shoot 3, 4, 5 over. And like I said, the good guys, when it's not clicking, they shoot 68, 69, 70. And when it is, they shoot 61, 62, 63. So, it's crazy. It's crazy how good people are.
I always go out there and appreciate it, right? It's fun to watch up close, which actually this goes into my last question here for you. Speaking of good amateur golfers, you mentioned him early, Andy from the Fried Egg. I always loved the podcast when you guys were on there together, and I've been fortunate enough to have him on the podcast, and he's a really good guy. So my final question, let's assume he's got some time to practice. You have to give him 3 aside. Can he compete with you? If you give him 3 aside, he's got a little time. He's not in the road. He's grinding. He's jazzercising. He's lifting weights. He's running each morning. He's eating healthy. Can he compete? 3 aside, does he have a chance? I'm not saying he's going to beat you with 3 aside. Does he have a chance?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's really good. He's like, when he gets it going, definitely.
Okay. Is that too many to give? Is that too generous? Or like if you're having a match with him, I
don't think I would beat him. Like, I think it would be like a 50-50, right? Like, I feel like he would get me, sometimes, and I would get him sometimes. Giving him 6 shots. If I was playing good, and he was playing good with 6, I mean, I feel like he would probably beat me more often than not. He's like legit. He's legit. Like, if he gets playing and practicing, I mean, he's not going to shoot like much higher than 72. So I got to go shoot 66.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do that, but I can't like not play good, right? I actually met Andy for the first time at the John Deere.
Really, he's out there. He was just out there covering it and bumped into him, and
I think he drove out like specifically to write a story about me trying to build TBC, and that was kind of like the first like interview about the project, about what I was trying to do, and he was kind of the one that brought it to the light.
How cool is that, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're building your club down in South Carolina. One story, and it turns
and he was
out.
He was also the one that was like, "Hey, like, I'm out here having an event at Aiken Golf Club. Like, the properties out here, like, seems like there's some cool places out here." So he's the guiding light.
Yeah, the stars have aligned. Well, shout out to Andy. If he can compete with you against a tour player 3-a-side, I know he's a good player, but that's Andy's holding his own. So. Shout out to the fried egg on that one. Hey, man, I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and good luck with, getting back and playing at the PGA Tour, and getting out there, and also with the projects you have going on. I can't wait to see, read about the course once it's fully open, but I know it's going to be great. Your stuff.
Yeah,
and then
you'd have to come down and play it.
I would love to come down there and see it at some point, and but I know it's going to be fantastic. Like, you brought the right crew in, with that topography. It's going to be great. I can't wait to see it. So thanks so much for your time tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.